Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh, everyone. Thank you for joining us on our third day of the 2025 annual Sikh Summit. I am very honored to introduce for our first speaker today, Gurmohanpreet Singh, who is an advocate having exposure in international as well as national laws. In his over 11 years of his professional journey, he's set a notable mark in the field of human rights, international humanitarian law, criminology, cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, intellectual property rights, goodwill and trademarks, etc. Internationally, he's represented various WGHR organizations in UNHRC and related mechanisms. He represents UNITEDSIKHS in India as a strategic legal advisor, so we're very happy to have him here. His exposure is very versatile, from corporate exposure as senior strategic advisor to Anastasia Jojic Oberoi, hotels and resorts, to a pro bono human rights advocate for protesting Indian farmers. Supreme Court of India and High Court of Punjab, his range touches all sorts of spectrums. From time to time, he provides strategic legal advice and counseling, and SKM non-political also. He succeeded in granting farmers' rights for peaceful protest in 2020 by Apex Court, filed various criminal writ petitions on atrocities committed by Haryana police on peaceful protesting, and got a retired High Court Justice Commission constructed for a fair trial of all conundrums. He's also filed habeas corpus petitions for illegally detaining farmer leader Jagjit Singh by Punjab police amidst the 2025 farmer protests. Even in the present, where justice is pending, agreed petitioner Jagjit Singh, father of deceased Shubkaran Singh, a 21-year-old farmer who was shot dead at the border, Gurmanpreet Singh, for a neutral inquiry as Haryana police officials are in itself hand in glove. Being a public, spirited, and innovation and creativity-oriented lawyer, he's instrumentalized more than dozens of PILs which have delivered colossal outcomes in the field of natural justice. He's now carrying cases of most advanced stage crimes, which are basically driven by AI. So after setting a notable mark in fields of cybersecurity, he was also appointed as senior legal secretary to the board of Terra Eagle, top cybersecurity firm in India, equipped with Israeli technology, carrying projects of NATO. And we're so happy to have you join us today. You're in the waiting room? Gurmohanpreet, are you here?
Okay.
Gurmohan, you're on mute. No, continue on.
Okay, wait a second.
No, we can hear him. I can hear you.
Hello, thank you for
Is my
joining.
voice audible? Am I audible to you guys?
Yes, you are. We can hear you. Thank you so much for joining.
Okay, thank you so much for having me here. Well, I'll start today with my overall experience, and basically I will be more in function with words, because we are here for a connection, and words are the best way to connect. And what we say Sikhi, my topic is embracing Sikhi. Like what is Sikhi? And in this virtual world, we have these words to understand everything. Like when universe got created, there are certain sounds, and then certain form of water animals, then bacteria, and finally these human beings. So to put an emphasis on anything, any research, basically to reflect the psyche, what is going inside our head, what is going inside our body. And so I will start with entity, identity, and symbols. So I hope you are all aware of these very basic terms. So I'll try to be very basic, because in this advanced arena, we have ChatGPT, we have Grok, we have everything to teach us about anything. But only the connecting dot, which is linking everything, that is missing. I'm here for that connection. Like Guru Nanak Sahib started with one. He wrote one in a identical way. So that is connection. That is a connection with the whole human race. That we all are one.
Right. So
Our fears unite us. Sometimes our faith unite us. Sometimes our pain unite us.
yeah, I'd like to jump in,
And
Guru Mohanpreet, for a second here, right? If you can hear me, I hope you've introduced Guru Mohanpreet to everybody, right? So he's a senior ranking attorney in India, and his topic is on which he just said, identity, and belief, and also on the issues that the community is facing. So I'm just gonna set the prefix here. So what he's gonna talk about is, which we discussed a little bit last week, about that identity is a major component of the Sikh, for the Sikh community, right? And for other communities also in their own workplaces and other things like that. But most of our battles have begun because of that, because in a non-conforming spaces, there are times when we're trying to identify ourselves, and it's all through education that we are trying to make others understand who we are. And in cases where we cannot, that's where justice needs to be, the route of that has to be taken place. And Gurmohan plays that role in India, where, he is fighting for the identity, not just, in case of workplace discrimination, but identity taking a form of which he'll explain more in deeply about his work in the farmers' protest and what he has done for them, and in cases where the people who were shot dead, in during the farmers' protest, right, and he's handling their cases, the impact it has had on mental health balance, also on people while doing these things are going on. So his journey is very with lots of ups and downs, dealing with the day-to-day issues of people, mental health, and protecting our identity with his pen, with the legal justice system that he's working with and involved with. So just to set a preface, and with having said that, Gurumon, please start again. Thank you. Thank you so much. I think the people here are very well versed with, they know what the identity is, they know what the cars are and what the things are basic. So I think if you can start with what what are the challenges, that these things bring us today, and what are you seeing? Because we only have like 30 minutes or so, and I've taken some time from you already. So continue on, please. Thank you.
so I would like to start again. And I want to have a brevity. Like I will speak for just 15 to 20 minutes. Because I don't think that this will be some sort of boredom lecture or something. Because I've always been a backbencher in my life. Well, now it is a different that I got some high merit ranks, and I justified my parents that when I'll be sitting to the first bench, I'll be having some sort of tunnel vision. So to have a better perspective in the life, I always used to sit on the back bench and do some rebellious things like if you don't have power, you are not changing any sort of system, that is a different thing. But if you are having that power and still you are having some sort of self control, so I'll again start with entity. Any enterprise, any organization, any building, this human body, we call it entity. And we define entity as a body in which we are having a full liberty, like how to operate this mechanism, how to shut this mechanism, how to address this mechanism. And these independent resources define an identity. So in this modern world, when on one side we are on so much developments, on the other side we are seeing like latestly this let have this example of artificial intelligence, or call it almost World War One, World War Two, or we are heading towards the third era. Particular groups are basically attacking identity of another group, and from there emerged the idea of state. And there is a majoritarian group, and there are certain minorities. The basic question is, in some majoritarian state, there are certain minorities, and they are having this identity crisis. Now, some of you will be students of history, some of global geopolitics, and some having this local example of your life, either call it jurisprudence, law, or society. So, anything to everything, there are certainly three words: identity, entity, and symbols. You see any country's flag, you see any religious symbol, you see some sort of identity marks over there. Those are basically the history, the geographical domain that identify. Now, as Hardyal Paji have summed up, I start with my legal profession. So, in this legal profession, if we see, India is having a colonial legacy. In some 1835, basically, uh, our education is totally, what you say, structured from colonial regime. And they first of all started working on our lingo. And in 1860, some codification of criminal laws was there. So British people have their own customary practices, but in India, system was quite different. Now they work on linguistics, they work on research analysis, history, anthropology, cosmology, whatnot. But everything was outer side. There's a vast difference between East and West, and that is difference of opinion versus perspective. As long as we see this new education system got developed, either in education, either in research, now we are unlearning certain things. We are getting back to normal roots, how humans originated. Either it be a fight between sugar versus fats, then it comes a certain religious etymologies. Now, coming to the point, there are different entities, and when any particular individual if associated with some particular religion, they started generalizing certain concepts. Like in India, this attire which I'm having, there are certain fundamental groups who believe in core of religion. Just on any particular attire, some people started judging them. Like this, the star. The star is having a history. And till this date, they are basically comparing it with certain hardcore elements. So, in modern society, on one side, we are seeing universal ideas. And on another side, we are seeing that there is a specific persecution of certain minority groups. So, if you have example of World War II, what Nazi Germany have done with Jews, they have declared them vermins. They have put certain words which are of villainous nature. They have started demonizing. So, in between my communication, I give you all a full authority. If any word, any communication, if you are not well versed with that, you have any sort of confusion, you are free to interrupt in between. Because this is some sort of such discussion that we don't do in court of law, that we are unable to even provide enlightened vision in universities, because these are the gray areas, like very universe, like 23% of dark energy, 67% of dark matters, and we human beings are just 0.03%. So I don't want to spend more on this 0.03%, but I want to work on that 95% plus dark energy, which is connecting us all. Like we all are made of stardust. So this outer appearance, this the star is having a particular history. During mighty Mughal regime, they taxed this dastar. One cannot tie a single dastar, and Guru Sahib tied two dastars. There is a short dastar in between this head. We call it Dumala. It is a symbol like nobody can possess anything and nobody can order any individual what to do, how to do, and for whom to do. So I again start with embracing Sikhi. Sikhi means not possessing anything, just offering humankind that we are one, our fears are one. We have a different sort of journey, and let's sit together. Let's understand each other. Let's sit on a common platform. What we call Naam Japna. Naam is basically the energy of universe. What we define Naam. Naam is energy of universe. And when you don't have any cardinal aspect of money to pay, you have some wishes, you have some ardas, not for yourself, not for your greedy means, but for this whole world. So Guru Sahib during those times depicted what is universe. And the times when it was written that there were only 7 skies, there were only 7 down unders. Guru Sahib guided us that there are anonymous, they are beyond limit skies. So from there, Sikhi started. Now we see the races, the generations, the empires which basically rule this world. They have an impact on education. The modern day education, it is basically not to free you of your curses. It is basically for some sort of consumerism, some economic trade, some commercial trade, fighting in between borders. So I'll be giving you some examples so you won't get confused. See example of Baba Nanak. During those times, there were Shia and Sharia laws, Islamic laws. There were some Catholic laws. And in India, there were some Sanatan laws. So Guru Sahib gave us an identity beyond law. What is law of nature? And what is dharam is defined as the very basic thing which is very natural. You don't have to force it upon someone. Like these here, they keep on growing. Dharam is like menses of a female that in next 28th or 29th day, they will be on a regular pace. If they won't be there, then there is some problem with some psychoanatomy, some physiology. So Guru Sahib defined that there are different aspects of mensuration in different cultures. That was the boldest topic of those times. When female was behind veils. Even to this date, there are certain laws which are female centric and female specific, but those laws are not setted as per the anatomy of a female. Even if we see example of West, they call history. If we break this word, that is Hunter's story, his story. There is a smell of patriarchy. So if we see justice and injustice, it first started with gender, then it goes to race, then it went to countries, and from countries to different continents. So the biggest trouble here is like there are certain minority groups, they are having their different customs, they are having their different traditions. Other people see them from their perspective. It is like you being a hunter and you're writing history of lions, but things need to be different. Like you see some National Geographical this documentary, some Discovery documentary, they be with lions, they be with other crocodiles, they with venomous snakes to basically understand what they eat, what is their behavior, how they progenitize. But here things are different. There are certain communities which got lynched. Either in US you have example of black people. The lynching was so, and you have example of Red Indians, you have example of Maya civilization. If you went to New Zealand, you have example of Apaches. If more geographical domain, present examples, you see Rohingya Muslims in Myanmar. You see Tutu and Hutsi tribes, they are clashing in between each other. What I'm talking about right now is genocidal impulse. One community wants to kill another community. Like there are some invasive species in jungle, some wild grass got destroyed by another form of grass. Like in UK, you have this eucalyptus trees banned because it basically suck up the earth element and water and minerals. So they don't allow such plants. Who made this law? We humans, based on our naked eye. And then after certain 30 to 40 to 50, even more than 7 to 8 decades of experience, what we find, this system is not working. In today's modern era, when we are getting physically fitter, we are having some mental issues. Mental health is the biggest thing, a biggest challenge. And you will be astonished to notice that certain judges, certain high ranking police officials, certain politicians, they are all are having this hypertension, BP, they are diabetic, they are eating food which is carcinogenic. So I'm just touching certain spectrums to showcase you that there were oldest cures in our system. We were simplifying life. And I again put my pace back to Sikhi. What is Sikhi? Sikhi is not just having some beliefs and some concepts. It is about unlearning certain things, like a kiddo. Guru Sahib again and again gave us examples like a kid asked from God. And where is God? God is not some outer entity on which we have to believe. God is this inner entity and identity. When Guru Sahib said one, if we call about Western world, we have example of Carl Jung. We call it unconscious or subconscious, the mind about which we are not aware. This is midbrain, then forebrain, then hindbrain. And that very this subconscious brain. In Sikhi, we call it Bunga. We have our Juda over here. We have our case over here. This is basically a spot, a point. It hardly matters how you keep your cash or anything, but at least this is the primitive education which need to be delved in, provided to the students. But the problem is our community has faced lots of challenges. And what I have earlier explained, those things are already available over Google, over internet. You can Google them. I'm just telling you certain truths which are not available in these books, which is not over any chat GPT, which are not over Grok. These are some personal researches. These topics are not on our dark web or deep web. And these are very, very basic topics. Very basic questions that we are having. Again, back to, I want you all to repeat entity, identity, and symbols. On these symbols, alphabets of any language are developed. Vowel sounds are developed on this entity and identity issues. All literatures, either it be, you say there's a Semitic religions or there's a Eastern religions or Sikhism, all got developed on these three: entity, identity, and symbol. And when a particular community is not even allowed or misjudged by, like in Sikhi, we have sword. I have this small pagote inside my dumala. we call it kirpan. Now, this is not a sword to kill someone. This is a sword with a belief that before construction, destruction is always there. Death is the ultimate truth. Failure is equally important as success. If we need to see the glittering stars, we need to be there with the darkness. What Guru Gobind Singh Ji explained, Namo Andhakare, Namo Tej Teje. He said, I bow down to the darkness, I bow down to the thy light with the same mindset. Namo Kalay Karta, Namo Shant Rupe. I bow down to the noise and chaos, and I bow down to the peace and calm. Basically, human being is a dual, and you have to experience your each duality. In between this duality, chaos is there. Conflict of human nature is there. So all Gurbani is on improving inner self. There is a fight of you versus you only. Become your better version. So it hardly matters which religion it is. Guru Sahib have written Samastul Zuban hai ke Sahib kara hai. It means there are lots of languages. And there are lots of blessedly lively souls.
Thank you
So,
very much. Oh, please keep going. Please continue.
no, keep on. So this is my central point. And in between this central point, there is a conflict of communities. Each and every community, each and every religion, each and every class has two kind of people. One are spreading love, another are spreading hate. And sometimes the same people is doing both the things. Because this is human nature. So it is the same is the symbol if we see these angels, these demons. If we see Satan, Farishta, if we see Danav and Dev. Dear Guru Sahib have taught us, na Dev Danva Nara, na Siddh Sadhaka Tara. Dev means angel, Danav means demon. Same is what is happening in society these days. The darkest truth of this world is manipulating. Manipulation is going on. There is a difference between war and there is a difference between Dharam Yudh. This wars based on land, property, this is not what we are made for. We have something better. We have possession of universe. And that possession is by this way that nothing is ours. Everything owns us, we own nothing. This is our law. Our Guru Sahib has developed a trade and commerce system in Amritsar. There was no property right during those times. This concept of private property got introduced in colonial times, like in Western world. We are owning certain chattels, we are owning certain properties. This is not what we are. We were in older tradition, we were having a barter economy, like someone is growing maize, another one is having wheat. And you will feel that this is early man era talking, but now. So I want to share my experience in this time also. We are working on the very system. Like I'll be having clients, I don't see only cardinal aspect of money. There are another two things also. One is your intention, and another is what more you offer than money. For that, I am here. That is why I want to take only 20 minutes. Because I don't want to just give a lecture. I want to listen to you guys. What are your views about that? Is any term alien to you guys? Or you all think like same way? And if you are thinking in a same way, then I'll be working on a project. I named it unshakingly carrying our symbols in this modernistic era. And I will not fight just for my symbols, but for any individual who want to embrace God the way he wants. God is just like a teddy bear of a 4 to 5 year old girl. It is upon her how to design it. We are no one to tell it because it is somewhere beyond our imagination. It is formless, it is colorless, it is tasteless, it is complete silence. And if we are using more and more words to define that God, then we are certainly lacking. That's all. That's all. And uh, obviously, there are certain topics like farmers, the cases, which your good self have provided information in my introduction. So, what is happening with those farmers? They want to live a basic life. They want to provide food items on a cheaper rate. But once corporates will be having those markets, so these farmers will be lacking their property. They are not very well versed with the modern education system, but they are very well versed with a holistic way of life. In schooling, we are teaching kids just commercial things: physics, economics, history, geography. What about healing? What about love? What about any exercise that our fears are same? What about anger? What about hatred? So our education system is just creating a box, a identity. And those persons who are thinking out of the box, they call them weirds. As Einstein has given a very beautiful example that if you compare fish, she can't climb her whole life over the tree. So those things I'm already working. What I want to emphasize over here is that there are certain challenges. And I, first of all, rather than sharing my challenges, I want to ask that any of you are facing such challenges?
I actually wanted to pose a few questions that we've had come up in the chat for you directly off of that. Somebody asked, and this is a wonderful question pertaining to all the work that you do. How, as an activist, are you keeping yourself safe? We talked a little bit about mental health, but you know, safety is clearly all encompassing. We'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Well, there is a Punjabi singer Shubdeep Singh Sidhu Moosewala who got shot at. There is a journalist basically who is glorifying the gangster who was one of the assassins in Sidhu Moosewala murder case. So he tried to create such kind of sphere by form of dark manipulation. That guy was Lawrence Bishnoi. Indian government is basically heading Lawrence Bishnoi as per certain reports. Like he's in some Gujarat jail and he's having complete control. There are around 200 plus sharpshooters available with him. So such guys then randomly started calling me. There is a complete mafia. And when I go to deeper depths, there was a journalist, Jagvinder Patyal, who interviewed that guy, Lawrence Bishnoi. So when I went to deeper histories, his younger brother, Mr. Narendra Patyal, was an counter specialist. And in 80s to 90s regime, he has a lot of fake encounters of Sikh people. So there is some kind of grudge this person is having inside his mind. So life is what you say, life is not safe, but life is not safe in either ways. At least when you die completely. If you are fearing something, you die each day. And obviously, we are having certain meticulous steps that we are taking. We are just putting light over some areas. And not just here, in certain cases, even you will be astonished to hear it. New laws are codified in India. And earlier, there is a section of sedition, what we call something anti-national. They struck down that section in IPC. That was section 124A. But in latest laws, they have introduced a new section in BNS, Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita. Now they call it Nyaya Sanhita, but it is basically a penal thing. Nyaya means justice, but there are penalties in Nyaya. There is a section 152 in which they titled it Acts Infringing Sovereignty, Unity and Integrity of India. And if I'll be talking about something that is happening wrong with minorities, if I'll be having some literature which is depicting that in 1947 there were certain promises which were being kept with Sikh community, those promises are still pending. In no country they do such thing that they put army on the holiest shrine of any place of worship, but it happened in India. And if we'll be raising these questions beyond our limit, then they can easily frame that section 152. There are certain individuals who are just this. For example, let us have an example like Sikh homeland is a demand. Like they are saying Hindu Rashtra. Like each country have their own home. There is there is same thing with Sikh community. Each community wants their homeland. So it is just a political right. On this land, equality, liberty, property, these basic perspectives, there was American Revolution. If you are a student of history, Russian Revolution was over these points. Even French Revolution was over these points. But here, now, if you say these people that this is wrong, uh, or these new laws, police is given more power. You see the present conundrums in Punjab. Some police school teacher got tortured by CIA staff officials. He died inside custody. I'm taking such cases. Even there was a raid in some enterprise. Females got misbehaved. But there is only one thing. Like you have heard about that elephant. Summing up my answer. When that elephant is alive, they cost him 1 lakh. When he's dead, it cost him 1 lakh plus 25,000 or 50,000. So we have reached that what we call a threshold limit. Now it is dangerous for these people if we are getting attacked. Because now, as I work with various working group on human rights, there is a process called UPR system, Universal Periodic Reporting, where India is accountable to 170 plus countries. So then they will be answerable upon conundrums like there is one by Jaswant Singh Khalda. Till this date, Indian government is feared of even launching his movie. There are lots of filthy movies. There are lots of ill-spirited movies which are allowed in India. But still, they are quite reluctant with that movie on Pai Jaswant Singh Khalda. Well, you have to Google certain terms, and because these questions, if you need some complete answers, so those are not one-liners or two-liners. These are really complex questions. Because these are the questions which are involving our identity. This is what Deep Sidhu, our brother, which is no more here, he always say, "Gal sadi hond di hai." It is about our identity. This is the same way in which Virginia Woolf says, it is all about identity. History keeps on repeating itself.
Thank you very much for your time. We want to give you one more minute if you have any final remarks, just to offer the audience a little bit of, well, to make sure that we have an open channel with you. Is there any way you can offer contact information or an email address so that we can put it in the chat? I know um, there's quite a few questions regarding your work and your viewpoints, and thank you so much for sharing your insights again. If you have an email that we can drop in the chat for everybody so that they can follow up with you. I wish we had more time for questions, but would love the chance to keep channels open if that's possible.
I've just put a dot. I haven't even dabbed the alphabet because driving and basically designing such alphabets, it takes time.
Mhm.
So it is just a start. It hardly matters if it is short or it is long. So the second thing is uh, without questions, it is like some crazy ball over ramming every sphere. I don't know from where that ball will bounce back. That is the only thing. Interaction is the key. And there are lots of my videos over farmer cases. Now they are in vernaculars. Some of them are in English. Because this is the tragedy over the system here that our people are lacking that education. And history will always glorify hunters until and unless some lion will write his Arkan saga with his own pen. This is what all I want to say. While you guys are representing different geographical spheres, anywhere and everywhere, the only thing which is eternal and which is timeless, Guru Sahib has provided us is love. I wind up on that. Now we are having this much of pain, this much of extravagances, but still we start and we end with love. Because what we have, we are giving it to people. Someday they will be having enough of love and they give it us back. That is the only thing which never ends.
Thank you very much. For anybody else that would like to pose questions or anything like that, and it's definitely not small. I don't want you to think that. Your insights are most welcome. We really appreciate having you. We'll be sure to, if it's all right with you, Birji, we would love to, you know, keep communication channels open in case there are any further questions. So we'll be in touch with everybody regarding that. And thank you again so much for your remarks. We are very, very excited to welcome for our next speaker from the office of Chuck Schumer, Dundeep Kaur. And before that, we want to offer about a minute break. Don't leave the chat, but definitely get up, stretch, whatever you need to do, and we'll get started with Dundeep's words momentarily. Thank you all. And Dundeep NG, thank you so much for being here. All right. And if you all want to slowly start joining back at your leisure, we encourage you to have your videos on. We encourage you to jump in as you have been in the chat with any questions and comments for Dandeep Benji's talk today. And I would like to give a brief introduction, if I may. Dandeep Kaur is a coalition builder and impact strategist who is dedicated to bridging government and grassroots communities. She currently serves as Director of Asian American Outreach for Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, so we're very excited to have her. There, she amplifies immigrant voices in national policymaking. She's a longtime advocate for gender justice and faith-based inclusion through the Sikh Family Center. She's also advised U.S. Customs and Border Protection on religious accommodations and has served with the DHS Faith-Based Security Advisory Council. Dandeep has spoken at global forums, including the UN and Parliament of the World Religions. She chairs the Asian Caucus of the New York State Young Democrats and leads youth and interfaith initiatives through multiple civic and policy organizations. Her work has earned recognition from President Biden, the New York City Public Advocate, and City Hall. Thank you so much for being here. And I'll let you take it away.
Thank you so much for having me. Ragujika Khalsa, Ragujiki Fateh, everyone. So that was a lovely introduction. Thank you so much. I'm gonna start off just with some words from the senator, actually, who was not able to join us. I was trying to see if I could pull some things around. Not able to join us, but he did send a message to Sikh youth as a whole, talking about the Sikh community's unwavering commitment to justice, equality, and service. And how it continues to enrich our nation's fabric in powerful ways, from lungers that feed thousands to the daily acts of generosity rooted in the principle of seva. Your values speak to the best of who we are as a country. In times of challenge and triumph alike, your resilience and grace inspires us all, whether it's observing Vaisakhi, commemorating the Guru Nanak's teachings, or advocating for fairness and understanding. Your contributions remind us that pluralism is a cornerstone of our democracy. And with that, I'd love to just start off and talk a little bit about what the senator has actually done for the community and what he continues to do. His last Codel to India, he actually stopped by and visited Gurdwara Sikh Sahib, which is the Gurdwara of our Tan Tan Shri Guru Tegh Bahadur Sahib Ji, our ninth Guru. And that Gurdwara is so special because it is the epitome of human rights that goes above just seeing, that goes above just us with each other, but also, you know, on a humanity level, on a global level. He's also spoken on against the many hate crime issues that we've had here in New York City, especially based in Queens, and also led charge to pass the anti-Asian hate crimes bill during COVID-19, along with Representative Grace Meng, who I think was here at some point today. And lastly, one really important thing that I would like to personally plug is his push for nonprofit security grant program funding. He did a $1 billion push, and that specifically helps places of worship, including gurdwaras, masjids, mandirs, and synagogues. And I think that for me is something that, you know, we've worked very intensively on. So I encourage anybody here who has a local gurdwara that could use that funding, please apply. If you have any questions on that, let me know. But my name is Dandeep Kaur. I'm Director of Asian American Outreach for the Senator, based at the New York City office, and was previously at his DC office on the Hill. I'm a born and raised Queens girl, so it's really great to be back in the city, which is home. I was asked to speak a little bit about the importance of having young people on the table and having young people involved in politics. Along with working for the senator, I also am very involved in the Young Democrat initiatives here in New York, including a coalitions director at Manhattan Young Democrats, and I'm also the Asian Caucus chair for the state Young Democrats. So one thing that I have to say while being here, it is so important to show up to local meetings, whether it is your local Young Dem group or it is something like going to your community board meeting, which all are welcome to really start to understand how policy works and how we can be involved on a local level when it comes to certain bills passing, especially in like the city, very local level, city council, state assembly. They actually have a quota of how many numbers of calls on a certain issue have to come to them before they actually have to act on it. It's a very small number. I don't work in local government, but I think it's like around 10. So I think that's, you know, a very, very small way that we can be contributing to local change. It is very, local council members and assembly members are made very accessible. You can literally call their office, ask to speak with them. And if they are not available, you can schedule a meeting with them. So, you know, these are things I personally did not try before I was in government. But I have so many, my background is in community organizing. So there's a lot of real truth in the impact of this local government. And one thing that I, you know, would like to emphasize is I now work in New York City office, and prior to this, I worked in the DC office. So I would love to share how both sides are a little bit different and the importance of both work. So in DC, we focus on actually writing legislation and passing legislation. What's going to get passed, how, you know, which details are going to get through or not, how do we work with other people on, you know, either the other side of the aisle or on the same side of the aisle to care about a certain issue, and how do we get that passed. On the local level, a lot of what we're doing is speaking to groups like this and groups in person. We go to local events and we try to figure out what are the issues where we can help with, what are the gaps that we are seeing, and what we find there. Our work over there is what actually translates to that policy back in DC. We work very closely with DC counterparts to say, hey, this is what we're hearing on the ground. Do you guys have this on your radar? If it's not on your radar, what can we do to get this on your radar? And then how do we translate this to policy? So I work on a federal level here in New York, and I think you could take that same exact format and make it a little bit more concise for the local level folks, because their entire government is here in New York, or wherever you are. I think this is a more diverse group. So, you know, I encourage you to be involved in your local and state governments, whether it's city or state, as well as on a federal level. One thing on a federal level that I think constituents or groups that we speak with tend to overlook the importance of is calling. And I know it can be really frustrating sometimes, especially those of you that have been on the other side of call campaigns. It might seem like it's a dead end, but one thing I will tell you is that many offices have to tally the calls that they get a day. And depending on the topic, those, like, you know, 2 or 3 topics that end up getting the most calls, that does end up on the desk of whatever member it is, including in my office. So I think that is another thing that, you know, might seem very, very small, but does lead to bigger change. And then I think the last thing I'm going to just speak briefly about before going into a more of a Q&A session, because I would love to interact with you all and see where, you know, I can be helpful. Obviously, I'm a Punjabi Sikh woman, and what I would love is to have more people that look like me in this space, and that's a large portion of why I am in this space. When I joined the Hill back in several years ago, I was very, very isolated. I had major imposter syndrome. Everybody I knew was somebody's kid. Everybody that was there, they all had access to a lot more power than I did. I was a girl that was born and raised in Richmond Hill, and I had done nothing to get here besides apply. So I was very confused as to what I was doing there versus everybody else. But I ended up staying despite all of that, despite not being a fan of DC and the culture there, because I realized when I looked around, when I looked in the rooms that I was in, there was nobody that looked like me. Far from it, far from it. Even in the room, and then those whose voices were being considered were even more far off. So I think there is a lot of importance in representation, but quality representation, accurate representation. And it takes a lot to be the person in a room that might not be agreeing with what others are saying, but also understands that there are millions of people who I represent that the other people at this table do not. And that takes a lot of weight that we carry with us. Let me know, guys. I meant to share a presentation. Do I have sharing privileges on here? About just the conversation of how we get from a bill to a law.
I can grant you sharing privileges right now.
Thank you. I'm going to try to be really fast because this information is available online, but I'm happy to do a quick go through.
You now have co-host rights if you're able.
Oh, I feel so powerful. Thank you.
You are so powerful.
Okay.
Simran, you may have to make her a co-host, right? So that way
I did.
she can get the rights to share.
Yes. We've got it up and going right now.
Awesome. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, I'm just trying to see if I can make this full screen really quickly.
You're fine. Take your time.
Awesome. Okay, so we're going to do a little bit of a how laws are made legislation 101. And this is going to be on a federal level, but please remember that practically everything on a federal level is very, very similarly enacted on a local level, where in New York, your president, the executive branch would be the governor, and your two chambers of Congress would be state assembly and state senate. So you can feel free to use the same background for those local elections as well, or local legislation as well. So everything in law starts with an idea. It's what I kind of talked about earlier. As somebody that works in New York on the ground, speaking with people, speaking with groups and individuals and activists and organizations about what are the issues that they're seeing, you guys for us are almost like fact finders. You are living your reality, and where your reality has bumps is where we are meant to come in. So that is how we get source of this idea that should then translate to a bill. There is somebody that will end up drafting an initial bill, and that bill will then be sent to other members of Congress to ask for support. And those people that end up supporting will be called sponsors. Sponsors of the bill are people who want this bill to be turned into law, and they are usually in the Senate or in the House of Representatives. Again, those are the two chambers of Congress that legislation needs to be passed in prior to reaching the executive branch, which would be the president's desk. After the bill is actually introduced to Congress, one thing a lot of people don't know, it's sent to a committee. And these committees are a smaller group in Congress that are experts in the bill's subject area. So I know that there is at some point, I think AHA is having a member of the Sikh caucus come speak on. So that is an example of a committee that would be a smaller group in Congress that would be experts of that bill's subject if we were to pass, a bill that pertained to Sikh people in America. And these committees end up discussing this bill, propose any changes it might need, and they can bring in other experts. It doesn't have to be just people on this committee, but those people should be suggested by people that are committee members. And then finally get to the House approval. The House, as many of you know, has 435 representatives. And that bill first must be sent to the House for its approval. The members vote on the bill. Then the bill goes to the Senate, where we are in. The Senate has 100 senators, 2 per state. And if the House passes this bill, the bill will go to the Senate and be discussed and voted on. If the Senate passes the bill, then that means the bill has now been passed in the House and the Senate, and it goes on to the desk of the president. The president will then sign the bill to officially create a new law, and that is when a law is created. There is an option for the president to decide not to sign a bill, and that is called a veto. The Senate can choose to override the president's veto with another vote. If that vote passes successfully, the bill would still be made into law. This is a very quick video, which was my first introduction of how a bill becomes law, and I think it's extremely helpful. So I would love to share it with you all. Let me know if you can hear it.
Whew, you sure gotta climb a lot of steps to get to this Capitol building here in Washington. And I wonder who that San Luis copper paper is.
I'm just a bill. Yes, I'm only a bill. And I'm sitting here on Capitol Hill. Well, it's a long, long journey to the capital city. It's a long, long wait while I'm sitting in committee. But I know I'll be a law someday. At least I hope and pray that I will. But today I am still just a bill.
Gee, Bill, you certainly have a lot of patience and courage.
Well, I got this far. When I started, I wasn't even a bill. I was just an idea. Some folks back home decided they wanted a law passed, so they called their local congressman, and he said, "You're right, there ought to be a law." Then he sat down and wrote me out and introduced me to Congress, and I became a bill. And I'll remain a bill until they decide to make me a law. I'm just a bill. Yes, I'm only a bill. And I got as far as Capitol Hill. Well, now I'm stuck in committee and I sit here and wait while a few key congressmen discuss and debate whether they should let me be. Oh, how I hope and pray that they will. But today I'm still just a bill.
Listen to those congressmen arguing. Is all that discussion and debate about you?
Yeah, I'm one of the lucky ones. Most bills never even get this far. I hope they decide to report on me favorably, otherwise I may die.
Die?
Yeah, die in committee. Oh, but it looks like I'm going to live now. I go to the House of Representatives and they vote on me.
If they vote yes, what happens?
Then I go to the Senate and the whole thing starts all over again.
Oh, no.
Oh, yes. I'm just a bill. Yes, I'm only a bill. And if they vote for me on Capitol Hill, well, then I'm off to the White House where I'll wait in a line with a lot of other bills for the president to sign. And if he signs me, then I'll be alone. I hope and pray that he will. But today I am still just a bill.
You mean even if the whole Congress says you should be allowed, the president can still say no?
Yes, that's called a veto. If the president vetoes me, I have to go back to Congress and they vote on me again, and by that time you're so
By
old.
that time, it's very unlikely that you become a law. It's not easy to become a law, is it?
No, but how I hope and pray that I will. But today I am still just a bill. He signed your bill, now you're a law. Oh, yeah.
I hope that was a little bit of a synopsis for you all. It's one of my favorite videos. I know we have the Congresswoman here who is a much better person to hear about how these laws become how these bills become laws. But I think one thing I want to emphasize is, as even in the video, everything starts with going to your local member. And I think being part of your local Dem club, being part of these community board meetings, being involved in your community is the rapport that you take to your local congressperson or to your local representative saying, hey, I have been around. I know what the community needs. I don't just speak for myself. I speak for all of these other young people or elder people that I know have these issues. And I think that is your first foot in the door. And the best place to have information is to go into spaces that are continuously discussing whether it's local politics, whether it's federal politics, whether it's state politics, and that's a wonderful way of being involved. I'm going to open it up to Q&A. I know we have a couple minutes left here. If anybody has any questions for me as Punjabi Sikh person in government or for Senator Schumer's office, feel free to direct them my way.
We also, in the interest of time, please feel free to drop your contact information in the chat for all of our participants, and we'll make sure to forward that and circulate that to everyone accordingly.
Hey, Panji, I just wanted to thank you for your representation. Love to see
Absolutely.
young women in spaces like this. You are an inspiration, and I can't wait to see you reach the moon.
Thank you. That means so much. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. And thank you so, so much for your time. And I love some Schoolhouse Rock. That was excellent. Thank you so much. And with that, I would love to briefly introduce Congresswoman Mary Gay Scanlon. Thank you so much for coming. I know you only have a brief moment to give us your remarks, so I will try to keep this brief as well. Mary Gay Scanlon has represented Pennsylvania's 5th District in the U.S. House since winning a special election on November 13th, 2018, and was subsequently reelected in 2019. She's a lifelong advocate for children, families, and legal equity. She's previously worked as an attorney with the Education Law Center and as pro bono counsel at Ballard's Bar, coordinating free legal services for low-income individuals. She's earned her BA from Colgate University and her JD from the University of Pennsylvania Law School and clerked for Pennsylvania's Supreme Court Court. In Congress, she serves on both the House Judiciary Committee and the House Rules Committee. She's the ranking member of the Judiciary Subcommittee of the Constitution and Limited Government. Additionally, she chairs the Access to Legal Aid Caucus and the Youth Mentoring Caucus, co-chairs the Foster Youth Caucus, and serves as vice chair of the LGBTQ+ Equality Caucus. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And I'd like to echo the remarks of someone earlier who said it is so great to see so many young women engaging in the process, because we are still grossly underrepresented in the halls of Congress. I think we're only up to about 27% women in Congress. When I was elected in 2018, I was the only woman representing Pennsylvania out of 18 members of Congress and two senators. So we've upped those numbers slightly. We now have 4 women, but we definitely, until we're at least 50%, it definitely is not enough. And it does bring a different perspective. I mean, there's research on that, just because people have different life experiences. And often different ways of resolving issues, a little more, let's get the issue solved as opposed to a zero-sum game has been my experience when the gender balance has been tipped one way or another. At any rate, I am Mary Gay Scanlon. I've represented Philadelphia and Delaware County, Montgomery County in southeastern Pennsylvania since 2018. And one of the really interesting parts of the job is getting to know so many different people around the district and, the different businesses, the different communities. So I've really, really enjoyed working with our Sikh community to ensure that folks have the protections and access to justice and recognition that has so often been denied. I am the co-chair of the Sikh caucus with Representative Valadeo from California, and we have found ways to host our Sikh constituents on the Hill. We also, I think it was 3 or 4 years ago now, we had the first Sikh cleric do the opening prayer in the House, and then it happened again just a few weeks ago. So, just trying to promote that recognition. And then on the more serious side, obviously, we've had the issues of transnational repression, working with our State Department, working with the administration to make sure that those issues are addressed, working with the Department of Justice to address issues of hate crimes, et cetera, are addressed. So, we want to keep pushing back against the things that hold all of us back, but that have been particularly impacting the Sikh community. So I do want to take a minute to commend the really important work that we've seen in our community. Just on 4th of July, I was out at one of our parades in the community, and our Sikh neighbors were passing out red, white, and blue Gatorade to anyone who passed by with the parade. So they were making a big hit with sharing and just joining in with the general festivities. So that was a lot of fun. So I am happy to take a couple questions if there's anything I can be helpful with in that way. I think what the previous speaker said about being engaged in your community, being able to contact your representatives and let your representative know what you think, as well as what your neighbors or other folks that you're representing in any way, is really, really helpful. I mean, it is a fire hose of information around here every day. So when someone takes the time and trouble to reach out, to seek a meeting, to write a letter, to make a phone call, we know that it's an issue that's important to them. And it helps raise everything up above just the general, babble that it can sometimes be here in Congress. So I strongly encourage folks to reach out to their elected representatives and consider becoming one, because we need more committed people. We need more committed women. We need more committed young people in office. So all of those would be great things if you would consider them. Yes,
I actually would love to just ask you a question on that.
Sure.
Getting women into spaces like this.
Mhm.
I'm going to say today's highlight is all of these beautiful women that have their cameras on are participating today. And especially Tandeep Banji, who, is highlighting the representation, especially for our community. What words of advice would you give to anyone who's, here ready to
Thinking
become
about
a
it.
leader and, make space and take up space in this political field? What would be your advice? How did you get started as well?
I got started because of having a particular passion for issues around education. I ran for my local school board, and I had spent a decade working at a nonprofit called the Education Law Center of Pennsylvania. So I had some grounding in the actual law of that arena, but also just a long-standing interest in public education and making sure that everyone receives a good public education. So I think knowing your material, knowing the pros and cons of any argument, and then just being ready to step up and talk for them. Particularly in the realm of women's representation, there's a number of groups that are great about helping people develop the skills they need to run for office, to fundraise, to do the communication stuff that come with the job. So Emerge is a group that comes to mind pretty quickly. So there are a lot of resources out there for folks who are interested in running.
Thank you. I have a question as well.
Sure.
As co-chair of the American Sikh Congressional Caucus, what motivated you to take on that leadership role, and what inspired you to join the Sikh caucus in the first place? And how has that shaped your advocacy work today?
So you will be shocked to know that the Sikhs in my community were very strong advocates. So no, it was part of getting to know the community, and they said, no, there is this caucus. It aligned really strongly with a lot of the work that I did as a public interest lawyer. So dealing with civil rights for folks, making sure that people's rights are observed, particularly around hate crimes and other issues where people get singled out because of race or religion or sex or whatever. So it was an easy fit in that way. And then the advocacy of folks in my community bringing to my attention just how many Sikh constituents I had and what their particular needs were. So that was really the start.
Congresswoman, I can see a couple folks. My name's Armida. I serve as the Congresswoman's Chief of Staff. I'm reading through the chat, and there are a couple questions. It looks like Harleen was asking about the unfortunate bigoted commentary from one of your colleagues the last time that, as you said, a prayer was said on the House floor. Obviously, I know what your reaction was to it and what you said publicly, but they're wondering if you can speak to that.
Sure. I mean, the beauty of Congress is we have 435 representatives from around the country representing a variety of viewpoints. The problem with Congress is that it's not always the best and the brightest of American culture and intellectual whatever rigor, whatever. We were shocked to see the comments that were made. They were extremely ignorant. I don't think they were representative of most of my colleagues here, and they certainly got a lot of blowback among our colleagues, both in the comments and in commentary upon what was said and privately as well. So, clearly we all have work to do to make sure that people are respectful in public spaces and private spaces, and we'll continue to do that.
Yes, and if I may, we put out an immediate reaction, public statement condemning the hateful comments. I think we probably
and it was a bipartisan reaction, by the way. It was a bipartisan reaction to just how ignorant the comments were in so many levels.
Yes.
So, yes.
We probably have time for one more question. I see there's a question from Amrit regarding the lack of diversity programs and the concern with doing away with DEI and other diversity initiatives, and your reaction to
sure
that action.
Yeah, this is something we've been really battling throughout the last Congress and again this Congress as the Republicans took over the House. I find it astonishing that anyone would come out and say, I want a less diverse society. I want a less equitable society. It's not our history. As our society has become more diverse, it has become stronger. And I think we should stay on that path. So we're going to be fighting these efforts. I mean, you can't hold people down and then say, okay, we're just going to forget about it. I think anyone who forgets about history and doesn't deal with the impact of systemic racism that we've had in this country and elsewhere, that if you refuse to see it, it doesn't mean it goes away. In fact, it allows it to fester and become worse. So we'll be continuing to push back on those efforts and hopefully turn a corner again. It feels like we're making progress and we've slipped back and we need to forge ahead again. There's lots of Martin Luther King quotes that come to mind, but just our work clearly is not done. We have a lot more work to do.
Actually, just to clarify, the question was, what's being done to address intolerance and hate in America? Sikhs are one group that are facing it. However,
Sure.
Muslims, Jews, others, brown people, for lack of a better word, everybody, is got some sort of intolerance, hate example that they can give you. And on a day-to-day basis, I personally have witnessed, even recently, as recently as, well, I won't even go into the details of it because you don't have time, but generally we are facing intolerant comments, intolerant behavior from others. One of the most insulting examples I can give you of late is someone who is a follower of Jesus saying that our religion is nonsense and is made up. It was so ignorant, I can't even tell you, but this is the type of thing that we hear and all the time, and our identity is targeted all the time. So the question that I'm actually asking is what's being done to improve intolerance and hate in America, because DEI programs have been, eliminated, which have existed for many years.
So I think this is where leadership at the top is what matters. And for decades, there had been a growth in programs to promote diversity, tolerance, equity, et cetera. And the federal government was leading in much of that. Now, and that's why it's so damaging when we have a White House that is undermining it, and we have a Congress that is defunding these programs. So I think to the extent that individual members of Congress, myself and others, and senators, our states are still trying to lead the charge and say, no, that is not how we treat people in this country. I think that's important, but I look forward to refunding efforts. I mean, one of the big places that it's been addressed over in recent years up until the last couple of years has been through the Office of Civil Rights in the Department of Education and in other departments across the federal government. But right now we are seeing those departments gutted. And I think it's immoral. I like to think it's un-American, except right now it is happening in America, and we're going to keep pushing back against it.
Congresswoman, unfortunately, you have to get ready for the Rules
Committee meeting.
To meet, but I'm happy to stay on if folks have other questions for the Congresswoman's office.
Just one thing that with Armita's help we've been able to do, so we do try to model the behavior we would like to see elsewhere in our office. We have a wide range of diversity, gender, race, religion, whatever, and we try to live by that as well. So, trying to walk the walk.
Great, Congresswoman. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for everything you're doing, and hopefully we'll get to see you in person soon.
Yes, for sure.
Take care.
Okay. All right. If there are any more questions for the Office of Rep Scanlon, we're more than happy to take them in the chat, or feel free to jump in. We've got a few more minutes before the end of our time today. So
I would actually like to ask, I'm sorry, I missed your name.
Oh, that's okay. Armida.
Armida. Okay, Armida. So there's some questions that were presented previously. United Six had a webinar for moms, new moms and seasoned moms, and how they're trying to find their identity. And this question is particular for seasoned moms, whose kids are a little bit older and now kind of finding their own identity. But at the same time, there were moms who were new moms that still were trying to balance their professional lives as well as, becoming a mom. And I know there's interest here for women who are, looking to get into this space, but they're trying to, balance that whole family, professional life. And, like as a community, how can we support one another, especially to get in these types of spaces where we need that community support because we're trying to represent, so not only as women but also as a community. If you kind of understand what I'm trying to ask
Yeah,
here.
totally. Yeah. I think that's a great question. I think, it's something that Mary Gay and her colleagues have been talking a lot about is members of Congress are, especially in this new class, have a lot more parents and especially moms, because dads have always been able to serve and have no problem, but it's really moms who, I think especially younger moms who have joined the Congress, and that naturally has a trickle down effect into congressional staff and leadership and all the rest. I think one of the things that we feel really strongly about is having everything from generous benefits and leave plans and maternity and paternity and parental leave and kind of like a cycle to bring people back into the workforce after they choose to have a family. So to Mary Gay's point, I think we try to walk the walk and not just kind of like espouse these values that we have. But on the more macro scale for members of Congress who are new parents, who have just had babies, there are a lot of actually bills going around from younger moms in Congress. Brittany Patterson is one. There are others. I think there's a dad who's really active as well. I want to say Jimmy Gomez, but I would have to fact check that have to do with being able to bring your baby to Congress and being able to take time off to have parental leave and being able to breastfeed on congressional grounds, like all these things that I think are the logistics that you don't think about until you are a parent and especially a mom trying to make your way back into these spaces. And how can we make an institution that was built for white dudes work for kind of this new generation and new demographic of people who are in these spaces. I think for my part, I would echo a lot of what I heard Tandeep saying earlier from Senator Schumer's office of we just like welcome the engagement. I think one of the things that Mary Gay feels really strongly about and our office feels really strongly about is creating space for people who have historically been underrepresented in political spaces. I often tell the story. I come from an immigrant family myself. First in my family to have like a political job when all the aunts and uncles are engineers, much like I think a lot of our families. And one of the things that I took for granted or kind of took as fact was that no one who looked like us or had our backgrounds could get involved in politics because it was this like insular boys club that you had to know someone or be someone. And that has not been my experience at all getting into politics. I think obviously there are barriers to entry, but again, one of the things that we feel really strongly about is everyone from like our internship programs all the way up to myself as the chief of staff. We try to really inject diversity, not just racial and ethnic and faith-based, but at every level, socioeconomic, background, geographic, whatever the case may be. And to Mary Gay's point, that is one of the things that we feel like makes our office stronger and makes the points of view in our office more interesting and more robust. So I would just say there are definitely policies that should be implemented to make every space more welcoming. But on the individual level, just like be as bold in involvement as you possibly can be, because we certainly welcome engagement and your voice in all of those conversations. I see a couple more questions coming in. What steps is Congress taking to ensure the safety of American Sikhs who do face such threats? That's a great question. So during the Biden administration, where there was an immediate kind of like uptick in the number of threats that we were hearing, we worked really closely with the individuals in Pennsylvania who several of our friends were notified by the FBI that they were on target lists, as I'm sure many community members of yours experienced. And so we worked really closely with the administration to get safety briefings and national security briefings. I believe there were all sorts of like public letters and statements and pressure and certainly private conversations that we were having with the White House, talking about the importance of pushing back against what I would argue was like the Indian government's pressure campaign and some of the threats that they were issuing publicly and privately. And again, at the time, we had a friendly administration, so we could have a lot of those conversations. Mary Gay and Rep. Valadeo and some others joined a letter asking for a security briefing to get a status update on what was going on, and had that briefing. And again, that was kind of towards the tail end of the previous administration. It is something that we'll continue to do. It's, again, to our mind, a very bipartisan thing. And given that the caucus is bipartisan, who leads the letter changes based on the administration, but Rep. Valadeo is very aware that we're really supportive of ensuring that the White House, the national security apparatus, and the community members have the information they need to stay safe. We take it really seriously. And again, we have friends and community members who were actively being targeted in the last round of threats. And so we were keeping updated on that. I see another question asking if I'm an attorney. No, I'm not. Mary Gay is, but much to my family's chagrin, I've only ever been in politics. So I came into politics straight out of undergrad and have been here ever since. Is there anything else that I can help answer? Sure, I see a question from Akshita. Oh, you're muted.
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yes, there you
Okay,
go.
perfect. So I'm Canadian, so I'm based off in Toronto. So it's just interesting sort of hearing this conversation and like taking into account the different experiences of Sikhs in general. Like here, I'm not saying that racism does not exist. I'm not saying that hate crime does not exist, but here in Toronto especially, most of that hate is being targeted towards international students. So during COVID, a lot of like the economic, circumstances were targeted towards newly international students from India, from South Asia in general. So it's just, it's interesting. Obviously, I'm not well versed with American politics. No, I just know the White House. I'm not, I don't know what the caucus is.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Yeah, and I'm noticing that like here, our bill to law takes like forever because we have 3 readings and then we have to get the royal assent because we love the monarchy.
Listen, our bill to law process here is
tedious,
taking a very, very long time as well. The kind of ideal version of it that we learned in school, unfortunately doesn't exist anymore on the ground. So I think you guys probably have a slightly more functional system than we do right now.
I could not tell you more about it except for what I learned in civics, which was a long time ago. But yeah, so I just had to make that.
Yeah, that's a great point. I'm Iranian, of Iranian descent myself, born in Iran actually, and emigrated here, I want to say like 8 months before 9/11 happened. And obviously, I think to my mind, and in talking with our both in my childhood, I grew up in the Bay Area, so huge Sikh community, but also in speaking to community members now, I think a lot of the like waves of violence that we see the Sikh community experience really aligns with like waves of Islamophobia that we're seeing, because people are so ignorant that oftentimes, much like the representative who was tweeting hateful things a few weeks ago, they don't even know the difference. So that's one of the trends that we see. But I think to your point, like different moments, depending on what's happening in the news or who's in the White House or how like hate and bigotry are being weaponized, you see waves of violence and waves of hate crimes against different communities. So we had like a huge wave against Chinese and Asian individuals and like students in particular during COVID. You have huge waves against Hispanic and Latino community members during some of the like border talking points that you get from this White House. You get waves of anti-Semitism depending on what's going on, and then kind of an constant, sometimes much higher, sometimes more baseline level of intense Islamophobia, and oftentimes is like an offshoot of that, pretty tangible hate and violence against the Sikh community. So those are all things that are part of that security briefing that Congress got, but I think plays out in people's anecdotal experiences as well, that depending on kind of how bigoted the atmosphere is in the United States at any given time, you see that pan out in violence against different groups. Again, to Mary Gay's point, one of the most immediate ways that we have of fighting against that, beyond hopefully having people in power who are not fanning the flames of that bigotry, is that we have things like the Office of Civil Rights at various agencies. You have the Department of Justice, you have the FBI, all of these organizations that under normal circumstances have the resources to prosecute these crimes. And we are disappointed to say that that has not been a priority for this administration. So we are working to push back against that, fighting against those changes, but unfortunately, the numbers are not on our side right now. So we'll continue doing that. Unfortunately, I have a 4 p.m. meeting that I have to jump to, but I'm sure that you all know where to find us. Like I said, Mary Gay is this is a huge like priority issue for her. So I look forward to continuing to engage with you guys and hopefully hearing from you in future meetings.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your time.
Awesome. Thank you all. Bye-bye.
And we want to close off today by thanking not only you, but every single one of our speakers to Rep. Mary Gay Scanlon today, Tandeep Kaur Sawhney, and Advocate Gurmohanpreet Singh. Want to thank them all one more time for their contributions for today. And if there are no more questions for us here at United Sikhs, we look forward to welcoming you all back tomorrow, starting at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Our themes for tomorrow's panel cover technology and civil rights. So we have the founder of Sunrise AI, Mr. Deepak Srivastava, speaking on building equitable AI for all, which I think complements perfectly our first speaker's points about AI. AI and civil rights. We also have Melissa Franco, General Counsel, coming to speak alongside our Chief Legal Officer, Wanda Sanchez Day. And then to cap off the day, we have Rep. Zoe Lofgren, another member of the American Congressional Sikh Caucus, speaking on upholding civil rights and religious freedom and her congressional perspectives on that.
Just go
I see you have a hand up.
Oh yeah, no, someone else can go first. I just had a personal question for you.
Of course.
Go for it.
Yeah, go for it.
Oh wait, yeah. I don't know if you got time to see my email. Am I still speaking tomorrow?
Tomorrow, yes. We'll circle back to your email right after this call.
Oh yeah, thank you.
You're very welcome. And if there are no more questions for us here at United Sikhs, we'd like to say thank you so much for joining today, and we look forward to welcoming you all tomorrow. Please be on the lookout on social media for specifics on that as well. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.